Hey, what's up, y'all? It's your boy Brian Gavin back for the Bleacher Boys Sports Podcast. Gav, man, what's up? What's been up with you?
Man, just chilling, just chilling. We had some crazy storms come through last night. Just, working, back on my grind, getting back in the gym feels good. Meal prepping, sorry. Trying to get that whole stage of my life getting going again, with the move and everything. It was kind of hectic. So it feels good being back in there, man. Besides that, just trying to grind it out, ready for baseball season. I got the players on in the background right now, watching that finish up. Just kind of just, ready for this new season and, rolling through this and talking sports with you. What you got going on, man? What's new?
Man, I got a powerlifting meet in a couple weeks, so like my body's like really feeling that in Tupelo, Mississippi. I'm pumped. Haven't competed since 2019. And then after that, gonna be like trying to like really get on the diet, get on my cardio. We've got a beach trip down to Florida at the end of March or end of May, sorry. So that's kind of what I got going on personally. And in between there, we got a lot of yard work. Like we literally have zero grass in our yard. We have two dogs, so we're gonna be trying to lay down a whole bunch of seed. We're getting a teal next week and start laying down seed. I think my wife is actually researching grass for like the 30th time since we've been here, what to put down. Um,
Yeah.
so we're rolling from there. All right, but let's get right into it. First topic at hand, March Madness. It is 5 p.m. Central Time, 6
hmm
p.m. Eastern Time. So the NCAA men's basketball tournament selection show is actually going on right now. And are you watching it? Have they announced any of the teams, the number one seeds yet?
Yeah, so they got one locked in right now. So they only got one locked in right now, and it's kind of the obvious one. They're rolling through the South. I think they're going to go through after the South, and I'm not sure which one they're going next. I don't got it labeled, but I'm watching it in real time. So give them to me, man. What you got?
So I'm going to predict the four number one seeds are Duke, Houston, Florida, and Auburn. So just based on strength of schedule, kind of that Q1 difficulty and how the teams are performing in the year, I think those are going to be the number one seeds. And man, what teams of the number one seed do you think is going to be the team that actually makes it to the Final Four? At least one of them.
Um, I don't know, man. So I don't know what's the latest on Cooper Flag with Duke. I know he went down. What was that, Friday night?
Yeah.
And I don't think they've come out with a diagnostics yet or a
No,
diagnosis.
no, they haven't given us a timeline and they
Yeah,
haven't really given us a real injury report. So we don't really know how long he's going to be out.
yeah. So I would say I'm counting. I'm kind of counting Duke as the first number one seed out.
Yeah.
I am really high, man, on Auburn and Florida. It could be my SEC bias or whatever, but that's who gun to my head right now. Like that's who I'm taking. Like you tell me, hey, you got to pick one of these or you got to pick two of these. I'm gonna say those are the two number one seeds. But again, it's March Madness, dude. Like it's pure madness. I mean, look at last year with Kentucky and the kid from what was that, Oakland, that beat
Yeah.
Kentucky. What was that
Yeah.
school? And the Jack, I can't even think of his last name. Dude just goes off, has a
Yeah.
career night. I mean,
Yeah.
writes himself a pro contract pretty much just because of that one game. And it's like, it's pure March Madness. They call it that for a reason. But yeah, it would have to be Florida and Auburn. What you thinking? Who do you like?
Man, I like what I saw out of Florida winning the SEC championship.
hmm
I believe that was yesterday on Saturday.
hmm
But man, based on strength of schedule, I like how Auburn, went through the year. I think they had the second toughest strength of schedule in the year. I know they were top five for sure. So, for me, when you've been battle tested through a whole year and still come out, with the number one seed, I just feel like you'll have a better chance of not being caught off guard, especially early in the tournament, to be able to get through to Sweet 16 and Elite Eight and into the Final Four. So Auburn's going to be my pick. I'm along with you with Cooper out if he can't make it back, which it doesn't look like he will, then I'm going to go Auburn. But if Cooper does somehow, drink that Michael's magic sauce and gets back,
Yeah.
or secret sauce, then I'm going to go. I'm going to switch it up to Duke and Cooper.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, man. And it's one of those things where, I really think Cooper Flag is the kind of lifeline of that team, the backbone. And that's tough, man. I don't care what you're playing. I mean, even, baseball, it's just whatever sport you're playing, you kind of take that heartbeat, that soul out of your team, and they're not there. I mean, he'll be there, of course, but they're not on the floor or in on the field. You can really start to see things play out a little differently.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting. I mean, I'm curious to circle back, man, when this is done, because when we get to the end of our time here, I think this will be over, and we'll kind of get a chance to see what it all looks like and how accurate we were.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to circle back. And with that said, let's hop into the next topic at hand, which is a little bit of Cowboys drama. So, you had the departure of DeMarcus Lawrence from the Cowboys, and there was a tweet that came out with Michael Parsons, and we know Michael Parsons is always about that content, whether it's just podcasts or tweeting or Instagram. The guy is just he gives all sports podcasters and anybody who talks about sports online or in a gym or in a barbershop, content for days. But basically, Michael was like, that's just a sign of envy and jealousy, and it's kind of clown talk. And D-Law came back and was like, "Man, you're one to call a clown. You should focus more on winning and stop tweeting so much." So where do you stand? Like, whose side do you stand on, or are you neutral, or do you see both sides? Like, where are you at with that?
Man, I'm gonna get a lot of Cowboys hate out of this. Probably gonna get a text from old Bell and
Yeah,
potentially old Wokey. I just wish Parsons would just shut up and play, man. It's just like, dude, you play on a drowning, dumpster fire organization team at this point in time. Like at this point in time, the Cowboys are a dumpster fire, and you don't have any room to talk, man. Until you go out there and you. And now, don't get me wrong. I think he's proven that he is, one of the better D linemen in the game. But with that being said, it's like you don't win, man. Like you're just at that point. It's almost I equate it kind of like to Draymond being kind of like the Warriors aren't relevant anymore, and so Draymond's trying to stay relevant and do stuff for content. Like Draymond, shut up, man. Just keep getting your stuff. Just keep doing what you're doing. They're not having a bad season this season. I mean, with Steph, Draymond, Kaminga, I mean, they're out of their prime, but you know, I don't get where, and I've never been one to do that in my playing days. To really talk, it was just, go out there and play, man. Let the score, let the wins and losses kind of dictate who you are. Um, but yeah, man, I'm kind of neutral on both of them. I could really care less what Michael Parsons has to say. It's just like, dude, why are we chasing clout right now? Like, you're about to get a bag, take your bag, go ball out next season, try to make your team better. Like that should be your focus, not what anybody else is saying around you. Like, and it's so easy to fall into that in today's world that we live in, man. Twitter is so accessible, Instagram is so accessible. I mean, you can get caught up in it, and you really have to, you know. I wish Michael Parsons would just put his phone down and not be AB for a second and have to respond to everything. Just put your phone down, man. Take 10 seconds and then really think about like, do I want to make this tweet? But if he takes 10 seconds, I think he's just going to chase the clout and he's probably going to tweet it anyway. So that's kind of where I'm at. I would love to hear your thoughts on it, man. I think we kind of have mutual and very similar thought processes about how to conduct yourself at a professional level. So yeah, give me your thoughts, man. Where are you at with it?
well, what D-Law did isn't foreign for a former Cowboys player, because just the offseason before, when the tight end from the Cowboys went over to Houston, and gosh, what's his name? I should have done my homework. Uh, wasn't Jason Witten? No, it's not Jason Witten.
No, that was a
Was it
long time ago.
who's ever the current Texans tight end right now? But he went from Dallas to Houston, and even he said, man, basically it's nice to just be able to come into an organization and focus on football and not have to worry about all that goes on with being a Cowboy as far as the fans having access to the locker room and having the I can't imagine working out and trying to get my body or keep my body maintained and there's constantly fans walking by as I'm trying to work out. Um,
Mhm.
and again, I get it, like they're making millions of dollars or hundreds of thousands of dollars or whatever, and it's just part of the show. But for me, that would personally be a distraction for me. Uh, but even he made partner comments, so I don't teammates making partner comments when they've left a situation is not new, but teammates responding to them and kind of pardoning of how they feel while their teammate is left is more of a newer thing. And
Yeah.
I definitely am on the train that I would like to see Michael win before he starts talking. I know he's got three second place defensive players of the year, but he hasn't done that. And I know he's got a couple all pros first, second team. But even with Draymond at least has won his championships and started
Yeah.
his podcast after he started winning.
Yeah.
And I know a lot. It's easy for athletes to start their podcast after they've retired or after they're done winning. And I know more. But even like, I just saw Paul George a couple weeks ago. He had a really big podcast, and he was like, "You know what? I'm going to put my podcast on hold for the rest of the season so that I can focus on basketball and
Mhm.
making Philly the best team possible to try to make a playoff run." So you know, again, it's great content for us. But if I'm in that locker room, I would struggle with the leadership of Micah he's going to be the second highest paid player on the team. Um, and honestly, he's quite the opposite of what Dak Prescott is, even though Dak Prescott is that guy that seems to be um, constantly, excuse me, optimistic in some of the things he says, like them winning a championship in the near future and all that good stuff. But
Yeah.
that's kind of where I stand.
Yeah. No,
Well,
I
except,
think we're go
go
ahead.
ahead.
Oh, I think, man, I think we're on the same page. I think that, it's just when you're losing, man, it's a bad look. It's a bad look. It's a bad look for Cowboys fans. It's a bad look for the organization. It's a bad look on Michael Parsons. I mean, it's just a bad look in general. And I think you would agree with that it's just like, come on, man, like, what are we doing?
Yeah. All right. So with that being said, next up on the docket is Cooper going from the
Yeah,
Rams to Seattle. I know he's from Washington. He's from the state of Washington. He went to Eastern Washington, and now he's going to be playing for Seattle. So for him, I think it'll be good that he continues to keep his family on the West Coast, and
hmm
this will even be a homecoming for him. But football wise, do you think this helps the Seahawks, hurts the Seahawks, or it doesn't change your mind on the Seahawks whatsoever? Like, does this move the needle for you or not?
Yeah, I think it moves the needle a little bit in a positive direction in my eyes. I actually like it. I'm kind of a fan of it. For all the reasons that you said, of course, he's from the West Coast. He's familiar with that. He can stay, and I mean, now he's going to be a lot closer to home. Um, I think also, with the addition of Sam Darnold, and then you got Jackson Smith and Jigba. I mean, I think there's still some pieces that need to be added. I don't think that I'll say this. I will be highly disappointed in the Seahawks front office if that's where they stop.
Yeah.
If that is where they stop in the free agency market, I would be highly disappointed because it's almost like, oh, we got Cooper, we're content. Like, no, no, that can't be what you're thinking right now. You got to think, okay, we got Cooper, what else do we need to add? So with that being said, I do like it, but I still think there are some more pieces to add. I think he will be a good addition, especially if he can stay healthy and he can be another just sure-handed guy on the outside for Sam Darnold moving forward.
Man, yeah, I'm there with you. For me, it moves the needle a little bit. Again, I think Seattle's going to be getting their full grade like most teams do, but their full grade by how they draft. Uh,
Hmm.
because I do really like Kenneth Walker III. I do like Charbonnet. I do think they have a great running back duo, especially when they're healthy. They have a solid O line, not a great O line, but Darnold has good mobility, as he showed that last year when their all pro tackle went out with the ACL injury, and Sam Darnold was still able to put up big numbers because I believe that was even halfway through the season. And I
Hmm.
like Cooper being able to, because Cooper is a route running perfectionist, a get good separation kind of guy, even though he was one of the worst in the league last year. I think that was a lot to do with lower body injuries, but I think he can make JSN a good or even better wide receiver than he's going to be. And if I had to guess, they're going to use a first round draft pick on an offensive weapon to go alongside them, whether that be a tight end or maybe another wide receiver. So it's solid money. I think it's 3 years, 45. Uh, 15 a year is pretty fair for him. It's solid for that team. And you can see Mike McDonald really who that's the big thing for Seattle's. I'm a big Mike McDonald fan, so I would like to see what he continues to do in the draft, but he's definitely making this team his from what it was before he took the team over.
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely, man. I'm really curious to see how Seattle shakes out. I do think that they need to add some stuff on the offensive line, but with that being said, I mean, I definitely I'm right there with you. I think it's a needle mover, not much of one, but it's definitely a needle mover in a positive direction.
Yeah. All right. So with that being said, let's move on to this. So man, I've been hearing some stuff, watching, you know, sports TV this week, and I saw a topic that came up, and thought we could talk about this on the podcast. But what do you think was a bigger miss in their respective drafts? So I believe it was in the 2017 draft. You had Patrick Mahomes being actually, what happened was the Chiefs knew Sean Payton and the Saints were interested and were going to take him. So they traded to get in front of the Saints to steal Mahomes from them.
Mhm.
So you could say it was a miss by the Saints because I've seen Sean Payton talk about Patrick Mahomes a lot, the last 4 or 5 years, even since he's been in Denver, about how he missed on Mahomes and what he thought of him in the draft process. Or do you think the Browns passing on Josh Allen in the 2018 draft uh, because I think that was the Baker draft, correct?
Yeah, no, yeah, that was.
Yeah. So the Browns could have Josh Allen right now. I think even Freddie Kitchens was may have been the second head coach there, but I believe Josh Allen would have um, developed into something close to what he is now. But which one of those team misses drafting a quarterback do you think was more impactful to the league or those teams respectively?
Yeah, so man, I'll be honest. I'm a big proponent, and I think we would both agree in this that draft and who you get drafted by, and who the head coach is, who the OC is, what's around you, plays a massive, massive, massive role into long-term career success. With that being said, I would say, and it's tough to play, looking back on it, all that. Me personally, Mahomes has had a great career with the Chiefs. There's no doubt about it. But if he goes to New Orleans and he is behind Drew Brees, in my opinion, a all-time quarterback in the NFL, is he does he pan out the way he does? Is he one of those guys that flight or fight for him worked out, sink or swim? Did that work out for him? Of hey man, here it is, like here's the keys to the kingdom, you go. Or would he have been, with if he's just sitting behind Drew Brees, does he get the development and develop at the rate that he developed in New Orleans? So I would have to say the bigger miss is because you look at like when he came into the league. New Orleans was still pretty relevant. I mean, they were not irrelevant at that time. Um, Cleveland, let's just call a spade, man. Careers go to die there. I mean, you look at Johnny Manziel, you look at Baker. I mean, thank goodness Baker has had a resurgence, and found his footing, because I am a fan of Baker Mayfield. But you look at those things and you think to yourself, okay, yeah, it probably would have been better. Or the bigger miss, in my opinion, was probably um, Mahomes to New Orleans. I think if Josh goes to, I think McDermott with Josh Allen is a perfect fit. And I don't think that, because who was the coach? I'm trying to think of who the coach was still, who was before Stefanski. I can't think, was it Hugh?
No,
What
because
was
I know it was Freddie Kitchens because he got
Yeah,
promoted from being like the quarterbacks coach to head coach, which
yeah,
but he replaced somebody else too, and I can't remember who was the
I
head
can't
coach
either.
either.
I
But
can't.
they were a poor choice of coach as well.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, and so and that's where I'm at. I think that the bigger miss, 100%, is Mahomes to New Orleans. I think he would have been good there. With all that being said about sitting behind Breeze, I think he still develops the way he develops. I think he probably comes out a little bit better, and they might win more chips.
yeah.
And so that would be me. I I guess you could say it was a bigger miss for Josh Allen with the Browns, but at the same time, like, is Josh Allen if he goes to the Browns? You know what I'm saying?
So my take is I think Mahomes' trajectory is probably almost exactly the same if he goes to the Saints.
Hmm.
Because when he went to the Chiefs, he did sit behind Alex Smith. He learned professionalism. And you heard the whispers of like, man, this kid is miraculous throwing off platform. He's super
Hmm.
smart, picking up the playbook, all these great things while being on practice squad. And he just carving up their secondary in the practice squad like he's a starter. But going to Sean Payton, who was an offensive wizard himself, and seeing what Sean Payton just did with Bo Nix in his rookie year, with having like 70 million in dead cap on the team, like they were basically made it to the playoffs with one hand tied behind their back cap wise and a rookie quarterback. I feel like Mahomes and playing in the NFC South, which is a lot easier as of a division and a conference as far as pathways to the making it to the Super Bowl. I actually think Mahomes probably still has two plus Super Bowls, two plus MVPs, and multiple Super Bowl appearances coming out of the NFC. So I think the bigger miss of a franchise quarterback is the Browns flat out passing on Josh Allen because Josh Allen playing in Wisconsin in that cold weather and the rifle of an arm and the physicality. I think a lot of the Browns they've been drafting these and getting these undersized quarterbacks that don't have big arms. Baker, while
Hmm.
it was a Heisman winner, he was known for being supremely accurate. And I think that's why he's flourishing in great weather in Tampa. Deshaun Watson was an off-platform guy, but still doesn't have a big arm. Was very mobile, definitely more of a playmaker. But I think Josh still would translate, and the Browns aren't as in much turmoil as they would be now if Josh Allen goes to the Browns. So I think my take is the Browns have definitely have the bigger miss for their organization, and the Bills are, and then you think like when Tom Brady leaves the Patriots, if Patrick Mahomes is already in that division with Sean Payton, does he go to Tampa and win another Super Bowl, or does he decide to go somewhere else where his path isn't as hard? Because when Tom Brady went to that division, that was the worst division in the NFL, and a lot of people still say it borderline is, along with AFC South. So, um, yeah, man, that's kind of my take. That's my thoughts, and I like that we're finally on opposite ends of the spectrum on it.
Yeah, and I bring up this point. I think this is a good talking point, and I would love to hear somebody else's. Um, I would love to hear somebody else's viewpoint and tell me if I'm just absolutely just batshit crazy in thinking this. But I'm not taking anything away from Josh Allen. I think Josh Allen is a very, very good quarterback. I do. But him going to the Bills, they have a good defense. They've had a good defense. Are they as prominent? It, are they as prominent without Josh Allen? And let's say Baker goes there, right? So Baker's in Buffalo. Are we having a similar conversation? Like, who was the bigger miss, Baker to the Browns? You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
you start thinking in that terms. I mean, I think 100% that Josh Allen went to a better defense in Buffalo. So that plays into it, man. I think that that is something that a lot of people overlook. But I am glad that we finally are on opposite ends. I definitely think, but you bring up a good point too, in the fact that you know the Browns straight up passed on Josh Allen, whereas the Chiefs went and got Patrick Mahomes. So it wasn't like New Orleans really had a chance to pass on him, and I forget that. But that's a great point. So yeah.
All right, man. With that being said, let's hop over to some NBA talk. We didn't get to dive into much of that last Sunday, so let's give it a little bit more credence here. Man, we're in the last third of the season now. Things are starting to really form apart as far as the playoff picture, potential matchups. But we're also going to have player awards coming up. So, man,
Mhm.
right now, I know last time we talked about our four teams that we think will be in the Eastern and Western Conference Finals, but this time, let's talk about right now, the season ended today, which I don't think much would change in another 10 to 15 games, I think, left in the season. What is your first team All NBA team as it stands today?
So I actually went through, man, and I wrote this down. And I think I'll say like the first four that I have, I think are absolutely no brainers, and I think you would agree with me on the first four. The fifth one is a toss up for me. I got Jokic, I got Shea, I got Giannis, and I got Jason Tatum. Those are the four that I think are guaranteed locks. Like I think that those guys are first team All NBA players. I think that they are deserving of that award, and I think that they will have that award. I see a lot of speculation and a lot of talk saying that Donovan Mitchell is going to be that fifth guy. And there was another one that I saw. I think it was Evan Mobley potentially sneaking in there. But I don't see that happening because you're not going to put him over Giannis and Tatum.
Yeah,
So, with that being said, there are two people that I kind of maybe more so one, Cade Cunningham.
yeah. Okay. I like it.
I think that Cade Cunningham, if Cade Cunningham got it over Donovan Mitchell, I would 100% say absolutely. And the reason being, Cade Cunningham makes the Pistons better. He makes the other four guys on that court better. Donovan Mitchell and the Cavaliers, they play a team style of basketball. There's no doubt about it. So those would be my guys that I'm like absolute like those four, and then the fifth one. If you give it to Donovan Mitchell, I get it. Cade Cunningham, I think, could absolutely take it, but we'll see.
All right, brother. I like that. I like it a lot. Wasn't even on my radar just because I was thinking maybe second or third team. But my five are Donovan Mitchell,
Hmm.
SGA,
Hmm.
Giannis, Tatum, and Jokic. And the
Hmm.
reason why I give Donovan Mitchell the nod for me pretty easily over Cade is that while the Pistons are having a great year, probably the best year they've had since Blake Griffin was like second in MVP voting like 7 years ago, is that Cleveland just came off of a 16 game winning streak that was just snapped by my Orlando Magic. But Donovan Mitchell is kind of like the SGA of the East right now, that he's playing great and playing a lot of winning basketball. And even though he doesn't have the bolstering numbers, when you just look at his player efficiency and kind of other metrics of his stats, and again, that they're like by far the best team record wise in the East, I think the playoffs show us something a little bit different, that you just got to give it to Donovan Mitchell this year. Uh, but since you bring up Cade, I do think Cade is probably a good shoe-in for second team, which for that, and it's another thing. It's very hard for a player to pop for their first year and make All NBA, first team All NBA. Normally, kind of like the MVP, they want to see you make a good run, make your team better. I think the last player I could think that kind of just popped in his first year and got first team All NBA was Luka. And
Yeah.
Luka stood out that year more than Cade has this year, especially
Yeah.
to the average, NBA fan or casual NBA fan.
And you also think about
That's kind of
Derrick
my first
Rose.
team All NBA right there.
Yeah, and you also think about Derrick Rose. Derrick Rose
Yeah,
did it. I mean, came in,
yeah.
popped. I mean, first team All NBA. So yeah, I mean, great point. And I'd be cool. Like I said, I'd be cool with any. I'd be cool with either one of those five.
All right. With that being said, let's move on to another topic of baseball. Let's hop right into
Hmm.
baseball. So, has there been anybody from spring training who's stood out to you so far this year?
Yeah, there has. The first one, I'm a little bit biased. I used to coach the guy. Got a lot of love for this kid, man. Just as far as a good human being, salt of the earth kid, grounded, knows the game of baseball, plays it the right way. JJ Weatherholt, number 7 overall pick last year in last year's draft. He goes out spring training debut with the big league club. I think he had a single and like a 3-run pump. I mean, come on, dude. We're talking about this kid hasn't even played rookie ball yet. Like, let's come on. Like, what are we, like? Let's go. But I know for a fact everything that I see in the Cardinals, coming out of the Cardinals organization, they are very high on him, and they're high on what I've said a minute ago, his approach to the game.
Yeah,
He goes about it the right way, man. He knows what he's up there to do. That is a guy that I could see on a fast track to the show very, very soon. Maybe not this year, depending on the type of year that they have, but for sure next year, it would not surprise me if we're watching JJ Weatherholt play short or second base for the St. Louis Cardinals. The other one, I got two more. Cam Smith, who is now with Houston, was with the Cubs. People forget about that trade that happened in the offseason. But from Florida State. Got to see him, another one of my former players, a kid named Marco Dinges, who's in the Brewers organization right now. Got to play with him, so I saw this kid hit. Dude, I mean, the hit tool's there. Dude just rakes. I mean, he's one of those guys that you're just like, how? But he just rakes. Another guy that I could 100% see on a fast track. And then the last one is going to be Jackson Jobe with the Tigers. I know that the Tigers are very high on him. And let's be honest, Detroit, they got a history of pumping out pitchers. Verlander, Scherzer, the two that really pop out at you. But I mean, that organization for some reason does it the right way. And then you're talking about Tariq Skubal, you're talking about Flaherty now with them. I mean, Detroit, he wasn't a homegrown, but he's there now. I think that their coordinators on the pitching side of things are very good at what they do. Don't be surprised if you see Jackson Jobe in the big leagues very, very soon.
love it, man. I love it. For me, uh, one of them, one of them is somebody who's very new on the scene. One of them is somebody who you're very familiar with, and I think you're a huge fan of. But I'll go with the new one first, and that's Michael Lombardo with the Yankees. 19-year-old kid. I'm calling him Aaron Judge Light right now. The kid is just hitting absolute tanks. Has a very like lively body. He looks like he's like 6'4", 215, 220 right now. It's not even big. Honestly, he looks bigger than that. I wouldn't be surprised if he's not bigger than that.
Hmm.
He's so young. He has a great approach at the plate. Very mature. At 19, not quite the maturity and approach yet, but he kind of reminds me of a more athletic Miguel Cabrera. Uh, and I don't think the Yankees have the space in the outfield for him to come up anytime soon. So hopefully he goes down in the big leagues. And another topic we're going to get onto is the Yankees, preseason injuries. But I think somewhere maybe mid to late summer they could call him up to get him some experience because I know he's not their number one prospect right now, but I bet by the end of spring training he's very close to the top of the list, and that's a guy that I want to see make it to the big leagues, especially the way that I see Belly swinging it. I saw
Hmm.
Goldsmith hit one like 600 feet the other day in spring training, and we know what Aaron Judge can do. So I like their lineup. I think I'm going to adopt the Yankees just for this year, just to kind of get on your nerves a little bit as a
Yeah.
Bucks fan. But my other guy, he's just kind of undeniable, and I think he's going to come up to the big leagues at some point this year and make some noise. But that's Jack Caglione.
Mm.
The kid is just, I think he's got 7 bombs already or 6 bombs in spring training, and he's just hitting tanks. And we know how Kansas City likes to go ahead and push people through the system and get into the big leagues and get them that time. And so I think he's going to get an opportunity here soon, and he's going to burst into the scene. So those are kind of my two guys. And I don't know. I saw this earlier today. It was filmed yesterday. Uh, you might find it as entertaining as I did. So the Pirates manager brings in Paul Skeens to his office. And a lot of times when you're getting pulled to a manager's office and it's on camera, you're either getting called up to the big leagues or you're
Hmm.
getting announced for something. Of course, he's like, "Hey, Paul, we're gonna make you our opening day starter." And it's like, no shit, Sherlock. Like, who else would you have
Yeah.
opening day for y'all? I know it's a big deal to get it on camera, but it's like,
Yeah.
come on, did we even have to talk about it?
Yeah.
So I get it. There's a formality there, but it's just like, oh my gosh, you could have. It probably would have been better if they just were like, hey, like we know the obvious choice should be for you to be the opening day starter, but we're going to go with our number two guy. Because
Yeah.
we want to debut you on Saturday. So
Yeah.
those are my two guys, along with that little bit of entertainment. So, do you have any more thoughts on that?
No, man, there's one. There's one. And I know we're kind of getting close on time. But there's one, and there's one piece that I have to say. Jack Caglione, I think he's an exceptional baseball player. I do not want to hear these Shohei comparisons. I know it's an easy comparison. Let the guy get to the big leagues first. The other thing, I need to see some maturity out of him. I saw some things in his last year at Florida that were really kind of eye-opening, and it just didn't really sit well, me being a coach. I know he's a competitor. I can respect the hell out of that, but there are some maturity things that I am very interested to see in his development with the Royals.
Gotcha. All right. With that being said, let's move on to the next one. All right, brother. So the next topic at hand is an early injury bug going through the Yankee clubhouse. So
Mhm.
I know Luis Gill is reported to be out at least 3 months with a shoulder strain. We got Stanton out indefinitely with an elbow injury. And then the big one, Garrett Cole needing Tommy John surgery out for the year. And Garrett Cole is no young puppy, although I think he's an absolute stud. And I think he comes back and gives us, at least another 2 to 3 dominant years at a minimum before he comes back. But do you think this affects the Yankees' AL East pennant chances, or how do you see this going for the Yankees?
Yeah, I don't see it going well, to be honest with you. Maybe a little bit of bias there in the fact that I am a Red Sox fan, but I'm also very realistic. I can definitely take a step back and look at it from a bird's eye view. For me, man, that's those are some the Stanton and the Garrett Cole are two big ones. I don't think they're as big as what some people are making them out to be, but I think it definitely hinders. I think it's very easy in the New York media, man, to let the outside voices, the outside noise kind of get into that clubhouse. If they start playing bad, I mean, let's be honest. You're gonna start hearing, oh, if they had Stanton, oh, if they had Cole, that creates a cancer, man. That creates some bad mojo in that locker room. So I think they will be fine. I still think that they are good enough in their pieces. I think their farm system is also good enough. And I mean, let's be honest, the Yankees, if they get to a point, they'll just go trade. I mean, they'll go make some trades. They'll go add what pieces they think they need to add, and they'll give somebody a big contract. So I think that it's going to hinder, but I think it's all up to that clubhouse on how they handle it, and I think it's going to determine that clubhouse and their mindset is going to determine how their season goes. I don't think it has anything to do with the injuries. I think it's can we keep the outside noise out? Can we focus on the job at hand and keep rolling? What you got? I mean, I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Um, I don't, I don't think Garrett, for me, Garrett Cole is the big one. Because Stanton's been in and out for as long as he's been a Yankee, basically. And even Gill was out a significant amount of time last year. And I know Cole was as well, but Cole being out, knowing the out for the entire year, is definitely going to hurt them. Now, the one little positive thing about that is them knowing Cole is going to be out, they have the opportunity to make a trade to replace him sooner than later. And throwing a pitcher in a rotation is a lot easier than throwing a position player, even though team chemistry is probably matters the least amount in baseball over football and basketball because you're not really running plays. And by the time you've gotten the big leagues, you pretty much know how to play ball. If you don't, I hope you can hit 300 and smash 40 home runs a year. Um, so I think Cole being out, but I think the injuries, based on how I see the Yankees swinging, I'm going to make an early prediction to say the at worst the Yankees are top three in the offense this year, and if I had to put money on it right now, I think the Yankees finish second in the AL East and get into the playoffs. Now, I don't know if that means the Orioles win that division or the Red Sox win that division, but I think the Yankees have enough firepower in offense and have the opportunity to replace Garrett, at least for a year, to wade the waters and finish in second place. Then you get to the playoffs, then it's basically who's ever the hottest team, or if the Dodgers, just who's the most dominant team.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of my take on that.
Mm-hmm. No, I think I would agree with what you're saying. Um, that division, man, year in year out is just tough. It's always tough. It's brutal being a Red Sox fan some years because you just feel like you're going in every single divisional matchup and you're just getting your teeth kicked in and you're just like, what the fuck? But with that being said, I mean, we'll see. So yeah, I'd be curious to see how that plays out and see if they make any moves. That's going to be another thing. You know, do they go out and try to make some moves and try to make a push? Because Yankees fans are not patient people,
No.
and they have not been at the top in a long. I don't want to say a long time, but they have not been at the top in a while.
Yeah.
And in a Yankees fan, that's an eternity.
Yeah.
You ask a true blue Yankees fan today, they're going to say, we haven't been there since Babe Ruth. Like, relax, just calm it down,
Yeah.
like, relax. So, yeah, so we'll see, man. We'll see with that one.
All right, brother. Well, with that being said, let's move on to this. The WNBA, you have Angel Reese, who has seemed to make herself like the spokesperson of the state of all things WNBA. Honestly, I would be really interested to know what other WNBA players really think about Angel Reese and her constant comments and almost like content farming because from everything I get from Angel Reese, she seems to be. Yeah, I know we're talking about women, but to me, if you're a professional athlete, like you're subject to criticism just like any other professional sport. So, but to me, I think Angel is more obsessed and focused on the fame and the monetization of her sport than the true love of her sport because I do see that she works at her craft, but even they all seem like photo ops. I feel like every time I see one of her, like I haven't seen one Caitlin Clark work out since the WNBA season ended, but I've heard on like five or six different guys' podcasts, even most recently Pat Beverly talking about like Caitlin Clark is just absolutely getting after it. But I feel like every time I see Angel Reese, it's more of um, she's working out with this player, and it seems like, oh, I need to show people that I'm really working on my craft, but it's just really just so I can post it on social media because that's what keeps me relevant. But with that being said, she has said that unless the WNBA players get a pay raise because they feel they should be paid or compensated more close to NBA players and how they've been, she said that a lot of them are on board with sitting out the season or going on strike. So what are your thoughts on if the WNBA players actually go on the strike? Do you think that the WNBA in general survives from that? Do you think they come back from that? Do you think it doesn't affect them at all, man? Like, where are you at?
Yeah, man. I don't know. I guess my best reaction to it is just a giant thumbs down, just a giant
Yeah,
get out of here. Man, they'd be dumb. They'd be so dumb to do that. They're in such a place right now that I don't think the WNBA has ever been with popularity. I mean, from time to time, like I'll even catch myself, like if it's on and there's nothing on, like, and I'm just like, let's see what's going on. Now, granted, some of it, I mean, we'll be honest, like I think that there's some really good basketball players in the WNBA. But there's some that I'm like I could watch something else and be completely content. With that being said, it's one of those things, they're more popular than they've ever been. The players union cannot, they have to fight tooth and nail and die on the hill that they cannot go through that. They have got to figure out an alternative. Because if they go on a strike and it's because, we're complaining about this, we're complaining about that, it just I don't think it'd be good. And I don't want to say that they wouldn't survive. I don't think that's the right way to say it, but I would say that it would take a massive hit to the state that they are in currently.
yeah, I'm with you. I think I think if they do strike for a year, um, that it would set them back minimum 5 years of progress that they've made. But with that being said, I don't think anybody outside of Angel Reese actually thinks or actually wants to strike because they know, as we saw the numbers last year, viewership was up, ticket sales were up, endorsements, not for all players, but for some players, were up. You had the momentum of the Olympics last year, even without Caitlin Clark, that was up. Diana Taurasi just recently retired, and that leaves space for another star to step in. Um, I just I don't think anybody is even listening to her or really even cares what she says, and they're just ready to go back. And as soon as the NBA season finishes, they're going to be ready to start back up, and they're just going to be guns a blazing, and they're not going to miss a step. So that's how I feel about that. Like I said, I like Angel Reese has been great at capitalizing everything she's been afforded. And that's the great thing about America. I'm all about capitalization. Make your
Hmm.
money, make your popularity, make your fame. Like she said, basketball doesn't even pay her bills. So it's obvious that the engagement that she's able to create for herself is what really pays her bills. The last time I
Hmm.
heard her talk, her rent was a little bit above 10 grand in Chicago. So
Hmm.
she's not living a cheap lifestyle. So
No, no. And it's a good point, man. Like, I'll be honest with you. I find myself, you give me a choice right now and you say WNBA or you say women's college basketball, I'm gonna be honest, I'm going to watch Don Staley
yeah,
and the Gamecocks all day, every day.
yeah,
Like I'm that's what I'm doing. I
yeah.
mean,
Give
and
me,
so
give me,
I
give me Juju Watkins. I just saw she has scored more points than Caitlin Clark did in her first 2 years. So it's like, oh, we already have somebody on pace to outdo what Caitlin Clark did in 4 years.
yeah, and man, I'm telling you, like, and it's and this I think this is something that we can talk about in a later podcast. I do think that it is a shame that we don't have a women's or a professional fast pitch softball league
Yeah,
for women. I know that I think there's like some sort of one, but the fact that there's not enough popularity around it is really kind of sad because I mean, I could watch that stuff for
Yeah.
days, dude. I mean, it is fast paced. It's boom, 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 boom. There's times where I'll watch a women's softball game on TV. Like I'll go watch Oklahoma and Florida play over Pittsburgh and the Diamondbacks, unless Skeens is pitching, of course. But with
Yeah.
that, I mean, you know what I'm saying? So, I don't know. It's almost like the grass isn't always greener on the other side kind of saying. Like, like don't be blinded, like be realistic. So yeah, I don't know, man. That'll be an interesting one to see to play out, man. I think they'd be stupid if they allow that to happen, but I'm not in the WNBA Players Association. I identify as a he, him, not a they, them, or she, her. So I'm over here and I'm just gonna keep my mouth shut and hopefully they figure it out.
I hear you, brother. All right, so last topic of the day.
Mm.
This is more like kind of like barbershop gym talk. We've actually had a lot of conversations like this in the gym, not just with me and you, but like Andre and Rod and other guys like that in the gym, Colton, John Wilkie. So, but man, most skilled athlete of all time. Now, this is coming off the heels of Travis Hunter at the draft combine saying that he believes he's the most skilled athlete currently playing. And what he would potentially be doing in NFL will yet to see it. I do think we are going to see it. I think whatever team drafts him is going to start him full time at cornerback, and he is going to get 10 to 12 plays, 3 to 4 targets, at least in the first half of the NFL season. If it goes on beyond that, like I'll throw my hands up. And if it's in a winning effort towards a playoff winning team, I'll give him more props. But I'm interested to see that. But with that being said, not so much debate of Travis versus Shohei, because we both know kind of the summation of that. But who would you say is your most skilled athlete of all time?
Yeah. I won't go down the rabbit hole with the Travis versus Shohei. I know there's people debating that. We can stay away from that. We don't have to be one of those because I think we're both on the same page. Um, for me, best athlete all time. And I'll preference this by saying my dad was a massive, massive, massive Deion Sanders fan. Like my man has his rookie cards. I mean, everything Deion Sanders. My dad loves prime time, loves him. But that's my father. That's not me. Bo Jackson is my guy. Bo Jackson by far is my guy. I think he is. You could throw a lot of question marks at Bo Jackson, and a lot of people forget that he got hurt. Like, does he not get hurt? He doesn't get hurt. We're not having this conversation.
Yeah,
Like he doesn't get hurt. We are there. It's undisputed. He's the best. There's no doubt about it.
yeah,
But he got hurt. There's some what ifs in there. But what he did and the time that he did it, he's my best athlete of all time. And I would die on that hill,
yeah.
100%.
I'm with you, man. If I actually have a different answer, but I am with you on the boat train that I think if he even gives us a solid decade playing both sports, like you said, I don't think this is even a conversation with to be had because uh, I I played for a scout who's my travel ball coach who was a Braves national scout at one point in his younger days who scouted Bo in college. And he said
Hmm.
of all the athletes he's ever scouted, Bo is by far the fastest, easily the fastest athlete he's ever seen in his life. And he also saw Dion run in person. He never got to time Dion, but he said he saw Dion run in person. And he believes in a straight up 40 or 60 yard dash that Bo would beat Dion in a foot race,
Hmm.
with Bo being probably 40 pounds bigger. Uh,
Yeah, dude. Yeah.
and watching you just if we're not even that old, but if you're younger than us and you don't have much credence to what Bo Jackson was capable of, just YouTube his baseball highlights where he's literally throwing like 105 miles per hour flat-footed from the outfield while robbing a home run, hitting a 500 450 foot tank and stealing bases like they're easy. And then Now he never did the thing like Dion did, where he played the both the same season, and
Hmm.
you have Dion like hitting above 300 all the way through the playoffs, and I believe he even hit above 350 in the World Series when he was with the Braves. Like that's a crazy amount of skill and dedication to be able to do both. Me personally, when I think of just a guy that maximized his talent, but we just saw the skill across the board in one sport and completely dominated, and a guy that doesn't get a lot of credit, of greatest athlete of all time, but he's definitely on the Mount Rushmore of just greatest athletes of all time is Wayne Gretzky.
Mm.
If you know very, just Google the amount of MVPs and first teams and all-star selections. But Wayne Gretzky has more assist points than third through list on guys goals scored of all time. And then on top of that, he's also the all-time scoring leader. So imagine that LeBron James in our sport, let's say LeBron only played 20 years instead of almost 25, and LeBron scored the most points, had the most assists, had the most MVPs, had the most All Stars, stayed for only played for two different franchises, but doing all this and like LeBron, I think what gets lost about LeBron, LeBron has like almost triple the amount of turnovers that Jordan has, and over double the amount of turnovers is what Steph Curry has. So Wayne Gretzky did all this, and he was also like not even in the top 20 all time of turnovers. So personally, when I just go back and look through guys that I got to watch play with my own eyes at one point in their career, now with Gretzky, it was much later in his career. I was pretty young, but to me, when I think it's just pure skill plus talent, I have to go with Wayne Gretzky.
Interesting. That's an interesting choice. I would love to see if I would love to see how many people have that mindset. I didn't know all those things about him. He was a touch before my time.
Yeah,
So wasn't that much into it. And didn't really understand hockey and pay attention much, but I do know, I mean, what you just said, that's it's a good point. That's
yeah. Maybe I'll
that
put
makes
up
you really,
Maybe I'll put up a
yeah.
post on YouTube and see what YouTube says. We're probably only going to get like 30 votes, but even with that, and maybe that may be biased, being where our audience is, but I'm still interested to see between maybe Gretzky, uh, Dion, Bo, and Shohei, who our audience thinks is, and all those guys played at different eras or same period but different periods, but they're all kind of different generation of players of what our audience kind of thinks of that. All right, I'm gonna throw before we go, man. I'm gonna throw out one more with you.
All right.
I was talking with my boy Lamar about this last week. Since we're both baseball guys,
Hmm.
what athlete do you think, had he stayed healthy, we got robbed of a all-time career for you as a baseball player.
Man, there's some good ones that you can throw into this category in the baseball world. Um, the one that really kind of stands out to me, and it was just one that I remember when I was younger, and he was just at the top of his game. He was young, he was electric. Tim Lincecum, dude, that guy, like, I think we got robbed. Like, that guy, I mean, they didn't call him the freak they called him the freak for a reason. Like, he was top tier. Um, for me, it would have to be between him and then the other one. I don't know if it has so much to do with health. I don't think he genuinely loved the game, but Hanley Ramirez. Hanley Ramirez, I don't think he genuinely loved the game. I really don't. Just
Yeah,
being a baseball guy, man, like I just don't think he loved it.
yeah.
And so I think you're talking about a totally different Hanley Ramirez career. The Marlins franchise might be in a different place. There's so many what ifs and everything if that man just loved the game of baseball.
Man, I'm with you. You actually threw me two curveballs there. I wouldn't have guessed those two answers whatsoever. Um, I don't know if you know this, but I'm gonna refute. Your pick is your pick. You're entitled to your own opinion. I'm gonna give you a little bit of pushback on the Tim Lincecum only because I'm such a fan of his. But I watched him pitch in college.
Hmm.
And I vehemently remember the story ESPN did on him, where I believe he had he actually had a ton of offers, but there was only one school. 'Cause I believe he went to Washington, right?
I'm not sure. I'm gonna look it up while
Yeah,
we're
look
sitting
that up
here.
real quick. But I believe Washington was the only school that would let him pitch and wouldn't change his pitching mechanics. And the reason I bring that up is his dad, kind of like Bryce Harper's dad, was like an engineer. I even think he was like a NASA guy. So his dad, but I know his dad knew biomechanics very well. And so his dad, as Tim was growing up, figured out his biomechanics and like perfectly crafted his pitching mechanics to maximize what his physical ability could ever be. Because Tim Lincecum is like on a good day is like 5'9.5", 5'10",
Hmm.
175 pounds. And that might be at
Hmm.
his peak. I think towards the end there, he was getting closer to like 165 pounds. But the fact that he was 95 plus with one of the probably best top five, top 10, 12 stick curveballs and the changeup and the ball placement. But like you said, he was the freak. His dad said in his pre-draft interview, whatever team is going to get Tim, and that you can go look this up. He didn't say this verbatim, basically what he said, that Tim Lincecum would not have a long career, but the career he does give you is going to be elite.
Okay, I didn't know that.
His dad knew his body could only maintain that level of performance because it wasn't, although it came from him, it was curated. And his body would eventually break down and give out because he's not a physically dominant, like doesn't have a ton of physical prowess, but
Hmm.
his ability to be efficient, probably the most efficient baseball player to ever play the game, along with maybe like a Jose Altuve, as far as maximizing what they can get out of their body, is Tim Lincecum. But I do love that answer. Mine growing up was always King Griffey Jr. because
Hmm.
like if he doesn't get the injuries, he was on pace. At one point, he was ahead of pace in Bonds in home runs per year, up until Bonds like last 5, 6 years playing with the Giants. But the amount of Gold Gloves, All Stars, MVPs, Silver Sluggers, and Griffey would have definitely finished over 700 if he's probably only injured for like a year and a half of his career. Because I know he broke his wrist, I think his second year in the big leagues trying to catch a ball. So you're gonna have some injuries, but he was just so injury riddled when he went to the Reds and he went to the White Sox. But the one that and I don't think it's recency bias, but I think Mike Trout is the guy that we got robbed. If Mike has only a fourth of the injuries that's happened to his body, I mean, the guy has like what, three MVPs, but on top of that, he has
Hmm.
another four second place MVPs. So the guy could probably easily have 4 or 5 MVPs, and he hasn't been healthy more than 2 years in a row in his entire career. So Mike Trout is my answer of like that guy that, you know, if you give him 300 games, 200 games back in his career, another 3, 4 seasons, are we talking about a guy that has a chance at 700 home runs and things of that nature as well? Yeah, what's up?
I got one more for you. We forget about this one, but I know you're going to agree with me on this one. The biggest like what if in the baseball, and it doesn't have to do with injuries. It is off the field demons and issues.
Oh,
Josh
no.
Hamilton.
Yeah. 100%.
Josh Hamilton.
100%.
That man, yeah, yeah. If you know ball and you know baseball, you will agree and you will go into the comment section. If you don't watch to this point, you will go into the comment section. We talked about Lincecum and Hanley and Mike Trout, and you immediately put Josh Hamilton, but just wait because we bring him up. But I'm telling you, Josh Hamilton is probably the biggest what if in baseball history.
I 100% agree with that. I don't rescind my answer, and but like growing up, my mom worked for the Center for Drug Free Living. So
Hmm.
and I volunteered thousands and thousands of hours before I even got to high school, and even more when I got to high school. So I've dealt a lot with a lot of different forms of addicts. So knowing the talent Josh Hamilton had and what he showed in the few years he was, we'll say mentally healthy, because I know he had some physical injuries towards the end there. But that is a guy that you can honestly, truly say had real demons.
Hmm.
And do you know, and I know we're kind of getting off on a tangent here, but can you name the player who got him down that downward spiral?
I can't. If you, I have one person in mind, but the timelines don't add up.
Shoot him.
It was Rocco Baldelli, but the timelines don't. Yeah, the timelines
So,
don't add up.
so this guy, they were both drafted by the Tampa Bay Rays,
Hmm.
and this guy's from Houston. It's called
Okay.
Crawford. So if you're missing pieces of the story, Call Crawford, I think they were both first round draft picks, and Josh was the first pick in his draft out of high school. And I got a good story about that. I don't know if you've ever heard it before, but Josh's path down that dark road was kind of initiated, I think, incidentally by Carl Crawford, because Carl Crawford was getting into his tattoo kind of passion early on in his career. And what happened with Josh Hamilton is that he had a season-ending injury. I believe his first full year in pro ball, and he was best friends with Carl Crawford. He played center field. Carl Crawford was playing right field at the time. Well, he hung out with Carl, and since he had all this first round money and all the time in the world being injured, Josh started hanging out with him at the Tattoo Parlor. At the Tattoo Parlor, they had all these recreational drugs. We'll just say that. And Josh started getting the tattoo. That's why Josh talks so much about the tattoos that he regrets having. I think even more than the what they actually symbolize, it just that's the path that started him down there. So Josh starts doing the drugs, and that's what leads him down the dark path. And, he has a come to Jesus moment, literally with his grandmother crawling to her doorstep. She kind of rehabs him. I've actually played ball on the field where he did his rehab before Tampa traded him to the Reds, and then he got caught up in the Reds, and then most of what we know of Josh Hamilton is his time on um, the Texas Rangers. But one of
Hmm.
my favorite stories, I love like draft stories or before they made it stories. But one of my favorite stories is I used to have a relationship with Don Jacoby, who used to be the MLB scouting director, and he was like the guy. If Don Jacoby didn't see you, you weren't going in the top 3 to 4 rounds because he had to give you your stamp of approval. And I remember Don telling me a story about they went to watch Josh play at a high school all-star game. Long story short, Josh basically watches like 12 pitches go by in his first 3 at bats and doesn't swing at any of them, strikes out all 3 times. So going into the last at bat, scouts were dude, what's going on? Like, you all right? And he was like, haven't seen a pitch I can do anything with. And what does he do? Is last at bat, first pitch he sees, tanks one 500 feet. After that, they're like, yeah, this dude's the first overall out of high school.
Yeah.
So he just knew he was a badass. He was like, I'm not. He literally told him, he was like, I'm not swinging at something I can't do damage with. And he finally got a pitch, and he did absolute damage.
Yeah. No, that's wild. That's wild. Well, I know we're wrapping up on time, man. I just wanted to give you the congratulations. You nailed all four number one seeds.
Oh, sweet. Yeah, there we go.
So you got Florida is the number one seed in the West. You have Houston is the number one seed in the Midwest, and you have Duke the number one seed in the East, and Auburn the number one seed in the South. And then your first four, starting on Tuesday, are going to be Alabama State and St. Francis, Texas and Xavier, American and Mount St. Mary's, San Diego State, North Carolina. And that's how we're rocking and rolling, man.
Are you going to do a bracket this year?
Man, I don't know. My company came out with one. I always screw my bracket because I get
Yeah.
biased and I choose
Yeah.
Kentucky and I choose the favorite instead of being, unbiased. That's the one thing where I'm not unbiased and I always screw myself. So probably not. It'll be good one year to just watch it, see how it unfolds and rock and roll.
Gotcha. All right, brother. Well, I think I haven't done a bracket. I did one last year. I don't normally do one, but since we got this podcast, we need the content. So I think I'm going to do a bracket.
Okay.
And let's definitely follow up after the first round. Just
Yeah.
talk a little college basketball. We'll leave that show. We'll do a shorter one. We'll leave that show just for college basketball. See how our brackets turn out, and then kind of maybe do some Sweet 16 and Elite Eight predictions, and see where we go from there.
I like it. I like it. Yeah. Maybe on maybe third. Let me see here. Maybe Thursday
Yeah,
ish, the 20th and the 21st,
yeah,
somewhere in there.
yeah,
We can kind of go through the first round, see how it all shakes out, kind of go from there. Yeah, I like it. Sounds like a plan, man.
yeah. My dad will actually. He's actually flying in on Wednesday, so maybe I'll get his. He probably won't want to be on the podcast, but I'll definitely get his takes. I already know what he's gonna say because he's a Florida guy. He's been a Florida guy since like before Gatorade was made.
Yeah.
I already know who he's choosing, but he follows the sport through and through. So I like to get his takes on here. Maybe I'll let him give a pick on here as well.
All right. I like it, man. Sounds like a plan.
All right, brother. Well, good show. Thank y'all all for tuning in, and we will see y'all next time.